Hey guys, today we're back with another video, and today we're going to be talking about the Duke Blue Devils, and they're my favorite team, so I'm excited for this episode, and let's get on to the video. So they started off the season 13-3, and they won versus Dartmouth, but they lost versus number 12 Arizona at home, which was a heartbreaker because they only lost by 5, and that last bucket was at the end, so they really had a chance to tie it up, and it's just a heartbreaker too because they lost in Cameron Indoor, which is notoriously not known for losing. And yes, that's it. And then they won in the State Farm Champions Classic versus number 18 Michigan State. Won in the Blue Devil Challenges versus Bucknell, LaSalle, and Southern Indiana. Then they lost at Arkansas in the ACC-SEC Challenge. Then they took another loss at Georgia Tech in their first ACC game. Then they won their next 8 games versus Charlotte, versus Hofstra, won versus number 10 Baylor in Madison Square Garden. And then they won versus Queens, Syracuse, at Notre Dame, and at Pittsburgh. And then they got their revenge versus Georgia Tech in Cameron Indoor and this past game. And then for their quad games, they're 3-1 in quad 1, 0-2 in quad 2, 5-0 in quad 3, and 5-0 in quad 4. So they proved that they're a really good team against other great teams, and the losses basically came from the start of the season where they were still trying to figure things out, and they've been really good in their past games, going 8-0 in their last 8 games. And then for the best players, they got Kyle Filipowski, he, in my opinion, has been their best player this year, and he just dropped 30 points and 13 rebounds against Georgia Tech, and he could have went to the draft, but he came back, and now he's averaging 18.2 points, 8.9 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 blocks a game, while also shooting 41.2% from 3 on 3 attempts a game. So he's having a really good season, and I think he solidified his case as a top draft pick this year. And then next we have Jeremy Roach. He's a senior that seems like he's been here forever, but it would be sad to see him go. And he's been averaging 14.6 points, 3.2 assists, 2.6 rebounds, and 1.5 steals, with only 1 turnover a game, while shooting 45% from 3, which is really good. And then there's Mark Mitchell, and he brings so much energy to the court when he plays, and Duke struggles a little bit without him, and he's been averaging about 12.5 points, 5.5 rebounds, but he does need to work on his 3-point efficiency, and he's only been shooting 12% from behind the arc. And last but not least, we have Jared McCain. He's only a freshman, and he came in and he's been doing really good, and he's been averaging 11.7 points and 4.1 rebounds, while also being a floor general, and he's even shooting 42% from 3, which is great for a freshman. And then honorable mention is Tyrese Proctor, and he's had that ankle injury that kept him sidelined for 3 games, but he's also been playing really good, and he's leading the team in assists with 4.2. And then they did lose Dariq Whitehead and Derek Lively to the draft, and Derek Lively's been doing really good, but Dariq Whitehead hasn't been getting the minutes that I thought he would. But yeah, it is what it is, and the NBA is really different than college, and they only each played 20 minutes a game, and they had some injuries. They weren't 100% throughout this whole season, and that definitely affected them. But other than that, Duke didn't really lose much, and they made up for that. And what they did lose with the big wing forwards like Sean Stewart and TJ Power, and basically everybody else that was like a freshman last year, and even Jeremy Roach, they really stepped it up this year. And then for their stats as a team, they're 30 in points with 82, 29 in assists with 16.7, 183 in rebounding with 36.2, tied for 65 in opponent points with 66.1 a game. And I also noticed that they're really good with turnovers, and they're tied for 7th in the country with only 9.2 a game, which is really good. And they do need to work on their rebounding, which is a big thing, and that is why they struggled, and that's what they struggled with in their losses. They also struggled on offense, turnovers, and fouls. And then in their first loss versus Arizona, they really struggled on rebounding, and they lost the rebounding battle by 12. And they also had 14 turnovers, which is unusual for Duke. And they also had 17 fouls, and their offense struggled, only scoring 73 points. And in their next loss versus Arkansas, they also lost the rebounding battle by 5, and they had 24 fouls, which is not good. And most of their players were in foul trouble, with Jeremy Roach fouling out. And they also only scored 75 points, which is not bad, but that's still not up to the standards for Duke. And also in the Georgia Tech loss, their offense only scored 68 points, which is the worst I've ever seen them play this season. And they didn't lose the rebounding battle, but they didn't win it, so they have to focus on doing good for the rest of the season with that. And they didn't struggle with turnovers this game, but they had 15 fouls, which is also not good. And then, so they basically have to work on being consistent, because most of the things that I noticed in their losses is is not usual for Duke. And like I said, they started out the year 13-3, but before the season, I thought they would go 27-4. But now I think they'll go 26-5, which is not a big difference. And I may be biased because Duke is my favorite team, but I still think that they could go to the rest of the season with only losing 2 games. But yeah, that's about it for this episode. Thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe for more. And the next episode is Florida.